What is up, Waffle Gang? I do hope you are well. My name is Mark, and today we're covering some more r/am I the butthole. If you'd like to skip the initial waffle, timestamps are in the description and along the timeline below, but if you are new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too. Now, a couple announcements today. Firstly, I got the beginnings of a merch store that people have been requesting, which the link is down in the description. I'm going to be straight up, I'm not particularly happy with the prices. I always think merch is always way too expensive than it needs to be, but I'm using sort of Teespring at the moment, so what I can do with those prices is very, very limited, so you have to forgive me for that. And I've just ordered myself one to test the quality, so I'll keep you updated on that too. I am looking at some ideas of maybe doing stickers sort of in my house, buying like all the equipment needed for it, and maybe like badges too and stuff like that, so I can do some cheaper merch at a very decent price rather than using one of these print on demand services. But t-shirts and tops is a bit out of my reach at the moment, I'm afraid. And also look out for a Christmas art competition that we're going to be running for this month with some prizes at the end of it. I'm currently thinking video games or something like that, but I haven't quite decided yet. But keep an eye out for that in future videos. Now, yesterday over on YouTube, we had two new members. We had Sir Touch Me and Abby Jackson. Thank you so much. And over on Patreon, we had Salem Atlas. Thank you so much for your support. It really does mean the world to me. It's overwhelming, honestly, so thank you. And with that being said, let's crack on with today's stories. Much love, guys. Now, our first story comes from Mrs. Sadai. Am I the arsehole for banning my brother from my house after he essentially poisoned me? Quick background, my 50 female brother, 48 male, is on probation, again, flatly refuses to get a job and is functionally homeless. He's been couch surfing for years and has been staying a few nights a week at my house, so when my state locked down in March, my husband, 51 male, and I decided he could stay until the order was lifted, provided he make every attempt to be in full compliance with the terms of his probation. I bought him a phone and put him on my phone plan to help him with job hunting. He made no effort to find a job and instead spent a lot of time baking. This becomes important. In May, the lockdown order expired and we reminded him that he couldn't stay over anymore. He still came over twice a week. He'd often bake muffins while I was upstairs in my office. In September, I took a new job. He came over on my first day, which had started with me being nervous that I scalded my mouth on my coffee. I was also in the throes of an allergic attack and congested. I told him I was busy with work, so he decided to bake muffins. A bit later, he brought me a pair of muffins. I noted that I could not smell or taste anything correctly due to the allergies and the scalded mouth, but I ate them anyway. He was very proud of them, so what the hell, right? Shortly after, his friend came to pick him up. I resumed my work and soon began feeling awful. Tunnel vision, couldn't type, heart pounding, head buzzing and throbbing. And developed a full-blown panic attack. Sure, I was having a stroke. I somehow managed to finish my workday. My husband came home from work, finding me in tears and begging to be taken to hospital. He asked if my brother had been over and said the whole downstairs smelled of weed. He said, "Your eyes are huge and you reek of weed." He called my neighbour, an EMT. She came over to check me over, not a stroke. I was high as fuck. What the fuck? She walked me through my day, asked me what I had eaten. Oh. She searched my kitchen and found some batter drops and tasted them. She surmised he had substituted highly concentrated can of butter 1-for-1 for oil, which was why I was in such a bad shape. I called him asking if he had made magic muffins in my house. He asked why, and I told him that he'd given me enough THC to knock an elephant out. Oh, my bad. I thought I gave you the plain ones. It took me 3 days to recover fully. On day 4, he came over and cracked, "Guess you fell apart, huh?" And there is when I lost my shit. My husband and I both have government adjacent jobs. Had I been on any camera meetings, I would have been fired. I told him he could not come back at all until he had a job, his own place, and was 100% in compliance with his probation. We could not afford to put our jobs in jeopardy. It's almost December. His friends are sick of his shit and telling me I need to take responsibility and take him back in. I've refused. He's my brother, not my child, and I would not risk losing a job I worked really hard to get. Edits, thank you for your kind words and reassurances. It's painful to watch him walk this path and easy to believe it's wrong to let him. I appreciate every one of you, even the cranks who accuse me of making this up. What I don't get, this guy's what? Is 48, did it say? 48 years old, doesn't have his shit together, which, you know, a lot of people don't, so no offense there to anyone. But he's homeless, couch surfing, and yet he's somehow getting weed from somewhere or whatever he's putting in these muffins. So he's still affording what he really wants and all this bacon stuff, unless he's using all your stuff in your kitchen. But he's still getting like the weed drops or weed from somewhere, right? So yeah, not the arsehole in the situation. He's just not taking responsibility for himself and just leeching off everyone else. So yeah, he needs to sort himself out really. But Lulu42 says, not the arsehole. It's not a joke to feed someone a drug they didn't consent to take in. And he's 48 years old. He's either more than capable of taking care of himself or he should be. Miley30 says it's always interesting when someone doesn't have enough money to pay for their basic like housing and food, yet always manages to find cash for what's really important in their life like weed, cigarettes, tattoos. Not the arsehole, you've decided to stop enabling your brother. Sounds reasonable. Maybe at some point he'll realise he might not just be able to rent a room somewhere, but also keep a job if he stops buying weed. And Biohazardous Bisexual says, not the arsehole. What he did is technically illegal. You can't put no food items, i.e. drugs, in food that other people eat. It is a crime. It's the same reason why you can't legally put laxative in food at work if someone is stealing your food. We've had stories about that in the past, I didn't know that. MM172 says, not the arsehole. His friends are under no more obligation to babysit a grown man than you are. Maybe exhausting every fallback will force him to finally grow up and take responsibility for himself. Or not, but it's not your problem to solve. 48 years old, man. Gee whiz. But what do you guys make of the story? What would you do in that situation if you was OP? Would you take the brother back in or would you say no, he's got to learn himself? Let me know in the comments below and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 1. And our next story is from Am I the Arsehole Nurse Reported? Would I be the arsehole for getting a nurse reported after she told her cousin about me? I, male 23, have a medical condition. I visit the clinic for regular appointments. There's a nurse that works there that I've known for over a year now. We have a professional relationship. I think she's 30ish and she's been working on my condition with me for over a year. The other day I was at the supermarket and a young lady approached me and helped me with a couple of things. Then she started if I go to X clinic and whether I had a condition and mentioned that the nurse was her cousin. I was shocked she was able to know this much about me. Clearly her cousin has been talking to her about me and the young lady seemed a little too friendly in my opinion. She totally didn't expect my reaction when I tried to end the conversation real quick and noticed I was upset. She asked what was wrong, but I kept it short and left the supermarket immediately. The next day I went to speak with a nurse and it was confirmed that the young lady at the store was her cousin. I was super pissed she told her about me. I have enough to deal with trying to cope with my condition and I don't talk to people about this seeing how sensitive this is to me. I told her she shouldn't have given out personal information, but she denied and thought I was overreacting. We got into an argument and I ended up telling her I'd report her for breaking the rules. She threw a fit and acted in an unprofessional manner. I didn't show up in the clinic for a whole week. My brother says I should report this nurse right away as she's committed a violation, but I've been hesitating thinking that might be an arsehole move. I'm lost and I don't know what to do. Would I be the arsehole if I reported her? I got the vibe that she'd been telling her cousin about me because the young lady seemed to be interested in talking to me and wanting to see me around. I frequent this supermarket, but this is the first time I've seen her, so I felt uncomfortable with her knowing this stuff about me, even when she seemed to be trying to start a conversation with me. Doesn't seem to be a coincidence to me in my opinion. Now we've seen over, what are we on? We're on about 217 episodes of Am I the Arsehole so far at the moment. And we've seen this about 4 or 5 times now at least, where nurses and doctors are breaking HIPAA regulations. And yes, we've learned that they should absolutely 100% be reported, because who else are they doing this to? How many other people's details are they sharing? They need to be reported, I'm afraid. And I know it's hard because people work very hard to get into these careers, but they can't break the rules. It's that simple, really. These are people's private details. But let's have a look to see what some of the comments say. Cat says, she violated HIPAA. If she gave enough information for you to be identified by a stranger, definitely not the arsehole. Turakoon says, not the arsehole. I know that nurses sometimes do talk about patients, but if they do, they must leave the patient totally ambiguous so they could not be identified. Considering someone you've never met was able to identify you, you should report it. That's a total violation and breach of trust. Chase GG says, not the arsehole, several times. I cannot say this enough. I was born with a serious congenital heart defect. Make-A-Wish kid, 56% 5-year mortality rate. I absolutely hated it when people would discuss my condition amongst strangers. I used to plead with my mother not to bring it up to others because on the surface, there is no possible way someone would have known I had a heart condition otherwise, but it was her favourite thing to talk about. She relished in the sympathy others gave her over it. If I ever found out a medical professional did this, I would be livid. Revwog says, not the arsehole, she did something wrong. Your perfectly normal feelings in the response are just that, normal. Please report her. Imagine how many other people she's done this to. And Revolution at Midnight says, not the arsehole, HIPAA exists for a reason. She should not have given out information about you. And Flegel says, not the arsehole, you should absolutely report her behaviour, both to the manager of the clinic and you should also, if you're American, make a HIPAA complaint. Just discussing your condition with someone outside the clinic would be bad enough, but enough for someone to actually recognise you is a horrifying lack of judgment. Now, I turn this one to you guys. Is there any situation where you wouldn't report a medical professional if they gave your details out? Let me know in the comments below and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 2. And our next story is from Leela Bjornets. Am I the arsehole for making a potentially embarrassing family genealogy discoveries visible on Ancestry.com? I've been the extended family's amateur genealogist for more than 20 years. I've built an enormous family tree on Ancestry.com. Names and details on all living people are hidden, unless I give special permission to someone. Info on deceased people is visible. Like a lot of American families, there's a persistent myth that we have some Native American heritage. My late paternal grandmother told us that she was descended from a French soldier who married a Native American woman. Well, Grandma, who was a very sweet lady, made this up. She was orphaned at the age of 2 and didn't remember her biological parents. Maybe she wanted an origin story. I figured out who her biological parents were earlier this year, triangulating my DNA matches and searching other people's public family trees. My great-grandparents were Eastern European immigrants from newfound relations. I was able to learn a bit of a family history. No Native Americans are in it. I'd actually forgotten about the Native American stories. My dad is no longer alive, but I shared this info with his brother, my uncle. He thanked me but asked, are you 100% sure there's no Indians, his word not mine, in our tree? Yep, 100% sure, I told him. He responded, well Ronnie, fake name, isn't gonna like hearing that. Ronnie is my cousin. I haven't seen him since we were kids, and he apparently took the Native American thing to heart. He went out and got a bunch of tattoos with symbols from some local tribe. I checked out his Facebook and sure enough, he and his kids even go to local powwows and are tribal dancers. I had no idea. To look at Ronnie, I guess you could believe he had somewhat exotic ethnicity if he claimed it. Dark hair and eyes, warm skin tone, high cheekbones, large nose. On the other hand, he looks pretty damn Slavic too. I had and have no intention of telling anybody in Ronnie's world that this is untrue, but he did not take the news well. His dad shared my number and I got a text from Ronnie telling me to take down any info about our family origin immediately. I responded no and reassured him that his name wasn't displayed and his secret was safe with me. I'm not trying to out anybody as anything. I don't share findings on Facebook and you'd really have to dig through the Ancestry.com tree and know what to look for to find these nuggets on your own. He texts back, you're a fucking bitch. I blocked him. In hindsight, I wish I'd have responded, and you're a white dude. Now my uncle has asked me to remove the info as well, for his grandkids' sake. I repeated what I told Ronnie. At least my uncle didn't curse at me, though he is disappointed. I'm sorry Ronnie didn't have the foresight to do his own research before going native, but I don't think I'm an arsehole for accurately representing our family history where someone else could see it. Or am I? I know at least 2 people in the UK who claim to have Native American heritage. And you know, they might be totally right. I'm skeptical, but they may be right. But it's always that way. But let's have a look at some of the comments straight away, because I'm going to be very interested in this one. Snoo Woofers 4721 says, not the arsehole. Ronnie should have checked and double checked before basing his lifestyle on a story. Good for you for standing up for yourself. Thea M says, not the arsehole, it was a huge thing. Back in the day for grandparents to tell family we're part Native American. I have no idea why. My mum's side was Cherokee. We aren't, and are as white as could be. We are Irish, English and German with a little Russian thrown in. Sint Alva says, not the arsehole, and quotes, like a lot of American families, there's a persistent myth that we have some Native American heritage, and then says, I've got some Indian in me, was the earlier generations, but I've got a black friend. Username 2437 says, this reminds me of a today I fucked up story about a white guy who adopted an Asian baby. He jumped neck deep into Chinese culture. The kiddo went to a Cantonese immersion school, got Chinese aunties and uncles who took him to China to engage with his heritage. White Dad was proud of his son and his support for his son's heritage. Then when filling out some kind of scholarship paperwork for college, Dad had to fish out the original adoption paperwork. Turns out the kid was Korean. Not the arsehole, but Ronnie should go to r/Tifu and tell his story. Oh, I shouldn't laugh at that really, because the dad did have his heart like in the right place and was trying to look after his son and stuff. And it is a beautiful, wholesome story in the end. It's just messed up at the end there though. Bloody hell. And Jay Robin says, not the arsehole. I do genealogy too. And wow, I can't believe the amount of people who cling to that old Indian blood story. What is with that? I heard the same story from my dad's side. Did some poking around and found lots of people linking the names and graves, apparently all made up. First rule of genealogy is to back everything up with proof. Your relative might have started with the hope of having Indian blood before DNA existed. It was easier back then to claim. Whole lot harder now. Now, I turn this one to you guys. I know we have quite a lot of US folks in the channel. Does your family come from any of this Native American heritage or claim to? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description. First story 3. When I said that, I was pretending to swing a baseball bat for some reason. Weird. And our next story is from No Dumb Tree. Am I the arsehole for telling my husband our Christmas tree tradition is stupid and refusing to do it this year? I'm aware the title makes me sound bad. My husband and I have a Christmas tradition in our house. We get the biggest real tree we can find, erect it December 1st, and absolutely load it up with personalised ornaments for our kids. 2 weeks ago, I had a C-section with my daughter. Recovery has been a bitch, and we have 3 other kids in the house. My stepdaughter is 9, and my sons are 5 and 3. I'm still on maternity leave until January, so I'm home with a fresh wound on my abdomen, a newborn, 2 rowdy boys, all the while helping our oldest with her virtual schooling. But I digress. Dear husband wants to go and buy a tree tomorrow night when he's off work. I told him maybe we should skip the tree this year since we're not planning a big Christmas celebration anyways, and just get a smaller, pre-lit fake one. He pulled out the "but tradition," and I told him tradition can pause for a year. He then tried to involve the kids, saying they'd miss it. Oldest hasn't believed in Santa in some time and cares more about getting her Switch games than a tree. The boys are so young, I doubt they have any sense in the difference between a real and a fake tree either. I told my husband I won't be left decorating a huge tree alone until midnight. He swore that wouldn't happen every year, after lights are put on, but he vanishes, leaving me to finish the thing. The kids help for all of 5 seconds before getting bored. That's ignoring the money we spend on the damn thing every year. I got frustrated and told him to forget about the stupid tree. He was hurt because tradition is one from his childhood that he wants to carry on. I feel bad, but I told him he always leaves me the brunt of the work, and I was done. He said it wasn't as big of a task I was making it out to be, especially since I was still on leave. I snapped and I told him I would not be helping, so he can do everything himself. He just shook his head and left. He went to work and I'm just stewing in my own frustration. Am I being the arsehole right now? And there is a mini update to this one too, which we will cover after the comments. It just seems like your husband is stuck in that tradition. He's got it in his head what he sees, you know, like the wife and the kids putting this tree up together and putting all the ornaments on the tree and everything looking beautiful. As people get into this rut of how they want their traditional Christmas to look like. I have a friend myself who's going to be moving house soon, and just because they got a fireplace now, their whole Christmas is centered around this fireplace, like with a big roaring fire, stockings on the fireplace, and all this kind of thing. And that's what's in their head. And this is what happens with a lot of these traditions. They get so ingrained in someone's head, they're stuck there and they can't live without them. And who doesn't want a traditional Christmas, right? So I can't blame the husband for wanting his traditional Christmas, but you know, with everything going on in this household at the minute, the mum recovering, all the kids in the house, you know, they don't really care too much. So it's a bit of a balancing act that just sounds like it needs some communication to me. And I think, you know, a fake tree this year is a good compromise. I think it will work for everyone. A fake tree is a lot easier to set up than one of these traditional ones. So yeah, I'm totally for that. So let's have a look at some of the comments to see what they say. Awilt says, not the arsehole, and quotes, he said it wasn't big of a task as I was making it out to be, especially since I was still on leave. And then says, and that makes him an arsehole. Let him buy the tree and then dump all 4 kids on him and go for a walk, shopping, sleep, whatever, and ask him to decorate it while taking care of the children. After all, it's not big of a task, right? Lobster says, not the arsehole, a C-section is serious business, plus all of the other stresses of having a new baby and other young kids. Say it with me, maternity leave is not a vacation. It's convalescence because you're supposed to spend the time recovering. I think you're right to tell your husband that if he wants, he needs to take charge and do the lion's share of the work this year. Who knows, he may like it so much that he may take the lead every year. Edit, I would like to add that I had an episiotomy. Did I get that right? And couldn't walk more than a few steps the first 2 weeks after I had my baby, so I can only imagine how much harder getting around must be after being practically sawed in half. Ooh, damn. Alert Potato says, not the arsehole. He isn't an arsehole for wanting to keep the tradition, even this year, but he is an arsehole for expecting you to participate at all 2 weeks after having your gut sliced open and a baby yoinked out of you. Yoinked out of you. And he's an arsehole for trying to use the kids to manipulate you in an adult discussion. If he brings a tree, stick to your word. Do not lift a finger in any way whatsoever. Let him buy it, bring it home, bring it in, put it up, find the decorations in storage, and put the lights and decorations on, and water it. And if it comes to it and doesn't get fully decorated, so what? Remind him that he's welcome to do so. Oh, where it says yoink the baby out, I just boink. Oh, wow. Now, what do you guys think of this story? What do you think they should do in this situation? Oh, let's not forget we have a cheeky little update as well. ETA, hello everyone. Sorry I haven't been responding to comments. It's been a busy day. I spent the last hour reading them though. I didn't expect this much support. Thank you. Husband and I had a talk. He apologised after I explained how I've been feeling lately. And I apologise for being kind of a jerk. We agreed this weekend he's going to take the older kids to pick out and decorate a smaller tree, while I spend the weekend at my mum's house with a baby, getting some R&R. If it looks shitty, oh well. Postpartum hormones and outside stress wore down my patience, but it was nice to be able to let it out here. Thanks again, or compromise. We got there in the end, and I love a wholesome ending to the story. 1st of December, guys. Happy month of Christmas. Do we say happy Christmas in December? I can't remember. This whole pandemic thing has wiped it out of me. I don't know what's real no more. But thank you so much for being here today. I hope you have enjoyed today's stories. And if you have, you know what to do. Hit that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can through either Patreon with the link down in the description, or join via YouTube by clicking that join button down below. They are hugely appreciated right now. I can't tell you how much. They are absolutely amazing of you. And as mentioned, we got the beginnings of a merch store down in the description as well, and potentially a competition for Christmas coming up. So I want to give a little something back to you guys for what you do for me. So thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. See you later, guys. Much love.